A beach, daylight, people walking, phones out, nothing unusual. No one came here expecting to document anything strange. Just waves, wind, routine vacation footage. And then, in the middle of that ordinary scene, something appears. Not dramatic, not announced, just there. The camera keeps rolling. What was captured wasn't searched for, staged, or understood. It's happening now, and no one has explained it. Floating observation cage. It was late morning. The sea looked calm, almost flat, the kind of day researchers wait for. They weren't searching for anything unusual, just tracking hammerhead migrations from a floating cage anchored offshore. Then, the underwater cameras caught movement coming from open water. Fast, no visible heat, just a long shadow moving upright beneath the surface. When they lifted the cage, something was already inside. It wasn't a shark or a dolphin. A hunched figure stood there, skin greenish and slick, water still sliding off its back, thin slits along its spine, black eyes that didn't blink, long arms with webbed fingers wrapped around the bars. It didn't thrash. It watched. Then the water began to rotate. Nanwan Beach, midday, clear sky. A couple is filming what looks like an ordinary boat ride along the coast. No tension in their voices, just water and light. No one out there expecting anything beyond a quiet recording of the shoreline. The sea looks flat, unbroken. Then, something beneath the boat shifts the color of the water. Slowly, not a splash, not a wake. Just a shadow rising from below, vertical, holding its shape as it comes closer to the surface. It doesn't rush. It doesn't turn. For a few seconds, it simply stays there under them, large enough to feel through the hull. Then it descends again. The surface closes. Nothing remains but calm water. Washed ashore. It's late. The beach is almost empty, just the sound of wind and distant surf. Someone nearby starts recording because a group of dogs has gathered around something on the sand. At first, it's hard to tell what they're circling. It doesn't look like driftwood, and it isn't still. Then it moves. The shape is wrong for any fish. The upper half looks disturbingly human, the lower half stretched along the sand, like a tail pinned by the tide. The dogs step in carefully, nipping, then backing away. Testing. It makes a sound, not a growl, not a hiss, something closer to a strained human cry. The clip cuts before anyone reaches it. Shoreline body. It was just after dawn. A cleanup crew was walking the beach, picking through plastic and seaweed like they always do. One of them noticed a large dark shape at the waterline. From far away, it looked like a stranded whale. Heavy, still, tangled in kelp. Up close, the texture didn't match anything familiar. The skin looked thick, almost gelatinous, marked with pale circular patterns. Then, someone focused on the head. It resembled a human face, no clear eyes, the mouth slightly open. The upper section lifted unevenly, as if breathing. Along the sides, narrow slits opened and closed. Several phones came out. 13 seconds in, every screen glitched. When the image returned, the sand was empty. Forest crossing. Midday light filters through thick trees on a Pacific island. Someone is filming the clearing ahead. Nothing specific, just the quiet between branches, moving in the breeze. No one there expecting to document anything unusual. It looks like any other stretch of green. Then, something at the far edge shifts. At first, it's just a vertical line separating from the foliage. Then, it steps forward. The figure is tall, upright, not hunched, not moving like it's hiding. Each step feels measured, steady, almost intentional. No rush, no hesitation. Its proportions look off, longer than expected, too straight for a known primate. There's no sound to guide the moment. After a few seconds, it passes behind the trees. The clearing stays still. Ebugo. On Flores, people don't introduce it like a legend. It comes up the way weather does, quietly, as something that was there. Elders describe small beings moving near the villages, about a meter tall, sometimes a little more, covered in hair, quick in the trees. They called them Ebugo. The details stay consistent. Faces almost human, hands fast, and the way they could mimic speech. Not random sounds. Words. Repeated back, nearly exact, as if learning while listening. In the late 1970s, researchers went into remote parts of the island following those accounts. Only one returned, describing movement above him and voices echoing from empty spaces. Anthropologists point to Homo floresiensis. On Flores, people still lower their voices. Tavura frame. They were just documenting the climb. Wind hitting the ridge, boots scraping stone, nothing but rock and low brush around them. One of the climbers tilted the camera down toward a narrow ledge beneath the path. No one was looking for anything unusual. It was just part of the terrain. At first, it blended with the stone. Then it moved its head. The mouth opened wider than expected, showing a dark interior that didn't resemble any familiar animal. Along its back, rigid spines rose unevenly, catching the light against the rock. No one tried to get closer. The camera shakes. Someone steps back. The original video vanished from the account. Only a single frame remains. Golden figures. They were walking near the tree line, filming the landscape the way explorers usually do. Dense vegetation, light slipping through in thin beams. No tension in their voices. Nothing to suggest they weren't alone. Then something crossed between the trunks. At first, it looked like monkeys, moving through the undergrowth. Quick shapes, golden against the green. But when the camera zoomed in, the proportions felt different. The bodies were covered in light fur, yes, but the posture was more upright than expected. Arms slightly longer. The paws too deliberate. They didn't scatter. They stopped and looked back toward the lens, watching. The clip lasts only seconds. No identification followed. No clear explanation. Just a few frames that don't fully match the wildlife known to live there. Abandoned platform. The old HA-12 station had been rusting for years in the Gulf of Oman. A team arrived only to assess its dismantling. Nothing more. The sea was perfectly calm. No birds, no visible movement around the structure. While inspecting the walkway, one of the technicians shouted that something was gripping from below. It wasn't climbing the way a marine animal would. Pale arms emerged from the water. Not two, many. Thin, human in shape, but each moving independently, feeling along the rusted railing with deliberate slowness, partially submerged, segmented and elongated, brushing against the metal as if it recognized it. They tried to record. Devices began to fail. Watches reset. Radio filled with static. The creature never fully climbed up. It released itself and returned to the sea. Gray shoreline. The sea is rough. Waves crash against dark rocks under a cloudy sky. Someone points the camera toward the shore, and there it is, hunched over a large stone, as if it has been there for a while. It doesn't seem to be posing. The body is robust, covered in grayish skin. Long, dark hair falls over its face. Its eyes reflect the light intensely. In its hands, it holds an opened fish, still red inside. It is eating. No cooking, no cleaning, just biting directly into the raw flesh, pressing the fish against the rock, while waves crash behind it. It doesn't look at the camera. It keeps feeding, as if no one were there. The video ends without it standing up. Stranded Mermaid dawn breaks. The light barely touches the shoreline when someone notices a different shape among the foam. They weren't searching for anything, just walking along the beach, like any other morning. The figure rests on the wet sand. The torso has human proportions. Pale skin, hair stretched back, still soaked. From the waist down, the form changes. Visible scales where legs should be. A tail extended across the sand, moving weakly, as if the sea is still pulling at it. It breathes. The chest rises and falls with difficulty. Each wave moves a few inches forward, then recedes, never quite reaching it. It doesn't try to crawl. It simply remains there, at the boundary between water and land. Estrella del Norte. It was a moonless night. The crew cast their nets as usual, with no expectation beyond any other shift. The sea was dark, but steady. Nothing suggested the routine would be broken. When they pulled up the chain, the weight felt wrong. Hanging between the links was an elongated creature, with translucent wings pressed against its body and horns reflecting what little light was available. The water dripping from it was thick, almost black. It didn't move violently. It simply pulsed, with bluish flashes beneath the skin, as if something were glowing from within. No one spoke at first. One of the older sailors barely whispered something about the sea, returning what doesn't belong to it. Then, from below, the ocean vibrated. The video cuts there. Forgotten Fish Farm. After the hurricane, much of Terrebonne Parish was covered in murky water. A group of environmentalists returned weeks later to map possible chemical spills. They weren't looking for anything beyond contamination and structural damage. The thermal drone detected a live heat source in a collapsed pond from the old Rue farm. They lowered the camera. The water was thick, yellowish, with algae clinging to the rotting edges. A body floated there on its back. The torso looked childlike, pale, with tight skin and rigid arms spread open. Instead of legs, there was a scaled tail with visible cuts. The head resembled a deformed shark. One eye opened. There was no splash, only a slight movement at the mouth. The signal dropped. When it returned, the pond was empty. Pier under the sun. It's daytime. The sea is clear, the sky cloudless. In the background, calm water gently hits the concrete. Nothing suggests tension until the camera points down toward the pier's surface. The creature is pressed against it. It moves low, almost crawling. The skin is pale, with no visible hair on its head. Its eyes are completely dark. The mouth is open, showing small, sharp teeth. The arms are long and muscular, firmly planted on the concrete, as if ready to push forward. Behind it, something resembling rigid structures protrudes from its back. There are no screams in the clip, only the sound of wind and sea. The creature moves slightly forward. The video ends there. Night shoreline. It's night. The beach is barely lit by nearby lights. The water moves forward and back, white foam brushing against the concrete edge. Someone points the camera towards something trying to emerge from the sea. The creature braces itself with both hands on the shore. Its skin is grayish blue, glistening with water. The body appears heavy, with a rounded shape at the torso. In the center of its chest, a pink, circular opening stands out from the rest of the skin. The hands are thick, with defined fingers gripping the edge as the wave crashes behind it. It doesn't run. It doesn't lunge. It slowly pushes itself out of the water, remaining half exposed under the artificial light. The video ends before anyone approaches. Windy beach. The sky is gray. Waves crash hard against the dark sand. A dog runs near the shoreline, distracted, while someone records from an elevated structure on the left. In the foam, something moves. At first, it looks like a dark body dragged by the tide. Then a shape becomes visible, partially rising, with a limb lifting out of the water. It's not clear what it is, but it doesn't move. Like a stranded fish, the dog gets too close. The figure turns toward it from the wet area of the beach, where the water still covers part of its body. There's a brief moment of tension, confusing, difficult to interpret from a distance. The video ends without showing what happens next. Dark sand. From a distance, the figure looks like something else. Black, pressed against the wet sand, moving slowly. The framing doesn't help. The distance and angle make the body appear compact, almost unrecognizable. At first, you can't distinguish a head or legs, just a dark mass shifting across the empty beach. Then, the angle changes. The camera moves close enough to reveal details. Wet fur, a collar, the clear curve of a back, stretching. It isn't an unknown creature. It's a dog, stretching after rolling in the damp sand. The initial effect was a matter of perspective. For a few seconds, it seemed like something else. The full image clarifies what the first shot distorted. Humanoid on the beach. It was a morning with low fog. The beach was almost empty, except for a few locals who approached after noticing something unusual along the shore. No one expected to find anything beyond seaweed or debris carried in by the tide. On the wet sand lay a motionless figure. The body appeared half human, half fish. Its skin was greenish, partially covered with barnacles, as if it had spent a long time underwater. The head rested to one side, visible gills along the neck, and a cloudy eye facing the sand. At first, they thought it was dead. Then the webbed hand moved, a slow gesture, barely noticeable, enough for everyone to step back. There were no long screams, just tense silence. The sound it made was low, guttural. The video ends without showing what happened next. Doesn't that look like a mermaid? It's broad daylight. Waves slide up the sand and retreat again. A man films from a higher angle with his phone. Other voices nearby reacting in disbelief. No one was searching for anything unusual. It was just the shoreline. Near the waterline, a figure rests on the wet sand. From the waist up, it looks human. Long dark hair drapes forward. The upper body is upright, supported by one arm. Below the torso, there are no legs. Instead, a long tail stretches behind, partially tangled with what looks like seaweed. For a moment, it stays still. Then, it begins to slide across the sand. Not standing, not crawling, gliding. The people filming step back. The clip ends before it reaches the water again.